Deo, I am your wife. You cannot keep speaking to me like I am some stranger you brought into this house.
Then stop questioning everything I do.
I asked you one question. You hit me? Mommy?
You need to learn when to stop provoking your husband.
You caused this mess.
He slapped me, and I'm the problem?
I said what I said.
What none of them knows is that 3 weeks later, Nneka will enter a room she was never supposed to search and discover an old photograph of herself taken before she ever met Dayo. On the back of that photograph will be 6 words written by her father-in-law. The woman Toby wants to marry. Toby is Dayo's older brother. And that photograph will expose something far worse than an unhappy marriage. Nneka was never originally meant to meet Dayo at all. But before we go back to where everything started, subscribe and stay with this story. Because what Nneka eventually discovers about the 2 brothers will change everything she thought she knew about the family she married into. 8 months earlier, the Eze mansion is alive, with preparations for Chief Emeka Eze's 60th birthday. Staff members move through the compound carrying flowers, drinks, and trays, while expensive vehicles arrive one after another. Inside his study, Chief Emeka sits behind a large desk reviewing business documents when his eldest son, Toby, enters carrying a brown envelope. Toby is 33, composed and serious, the kind of man who thinks carefully before speaking. Chief Emeka barely looks up. If this is another warehouse report, leave it there. Today I am pretending this company does not exist. Toby smiles faintly. It's not business. That gets his father's attention. Toby places a photograph on the desk. It shows Nneka Obi standing at a university fundraising event, smiling while helping an elderly guest find his table. Chief Emeka studies the photograph before looking suspiciously at his son. Who is she? Toby sits opposite him. Her name is Nneka Obi. She works at the university. I met her briefly when we attended their fundraising dinner. Chief Emeka's eyebrows rise. Met her? Toby shakes his head. Not properly. We barely spoke. Chief Emeka laughs. Then why are you bringing me her photograph like an application form? Toby tries not to smile. Because I found out her father is Mr. Obi. You know him. Chief Emeka leans back slowly. Now he understands. You want me to approach her family? Toby nods. Only if she's unmarried and interested. I don't want anybody pressuring her. I just want an introduction. Chief Emeka stares at his eldest son for a moment and then begins laughing. Toby frowns. What is funny? His father rises and walks around the desk. You are 33 years old. Your mother has introduced you to bankers, lawyers, doctors, daughters of governors, and one woman whose father owned half the land in her village, and you rejected all of them. Now you see one woman directing people to tables at a university dinner, and suddenly I should become marriage negotiator. Toby laughs, despite himself. Daddy, forget it. Chief Emeka immediately grabs the photograph before Toby can retrieve it. Forget what? Sit down. Tell me about her. Toby reluctantly admits that he noticed how patiently Nneka treated the elderly guests. How she stayed after the dinner helping staff pack up even though she was clearly part of the administrative team rather than catering staff. And how she had corrected an accounting mistake involving one of the donation pledges without embarrassing the donor responsible. Chief Emeka listens carefully. This is not infatuation with a pretty face. His son has been paying attention. Margaret enters the study halfway through the conversation. What are the 2 of you hiding? Chief Emeka turns the photograph toward her. Your son has finally found a woman. Margaret's smile appears immediately, but it changes when she takes the photograph. Who? Toby explains. Margaret studies Nneka's face. What family? Chief Emeka tells her. Margaret recognizes the surname and nods. Respectable people. Toby takes back the photograph. Nobody should make this bigger than it is. I only want to meet her. Margaret smiles. Of course. But as Toby leaves, her eyes remain fixed on the photograph in his hand. That evening, Margaret finds Dayo beside the swimming pool with two friends. Unlike his older brother, Dayo enters every room as though it belongs to him. He is charming, fashionable, and effortlessly social. Margaret waits until his friends leave before sitting beside him. Your brother wants to marry. Dayo nearly chokes on his drink. Toby, Margaret nods. Apparently. Dayo laughs. Good. Maybe everybody will finally stop asking me why my older brother is still single. Margaret does not laugh. Your father is very pleased. Dayo notices her tone. And Margaret looks toward the house. Nothing. I just find it interesting. Your father praises him at work, gives him the most important projects, consults him before making decisions. Now Toby will marry first too. Dayo sighs. Mommy, please don't start. Margaret turns sharply. Start what? Dayo has heard this argument his entire life. Everything is not a competition between me and Toby. Margaret's expression hardens. Easy for you to say when you are always the one expected to come second. Dayo stands. I'm going inside. Margaret stops him with one sentence. You haven't even seen the woman. Dayo turns. Margaret opens her phone and shows him Nneka's photograph. He looks for perhaps 2 seconds longer than necessary. Margaret notices. Beautiful, isn't she? Dayo hands the phone back. She's fine. Margaret smiles slightly. Only fine? Dayo shakes his head and walks away. Margaret watches him go. She has planted exactly what she wanted to plant. Over the following days, Margaret begins working quietly. She calls Nneka's mother before Chief Emeka can make the formal approach himself. Mrs. Obi is surprised but delighted to hear from the wealthy Eze family. Margaret speaks warmly about bringing their families together but deliberately avoids mentioning Toby's name. Instead, she says, Our son has shown interest in your daughter, but let the young people meet first. We don't want to put unnecessary pressure on them. Mrs. Obi agrees. When Chief Emeka later asks whether she contacted the family, Margaret tells him everything is being arranged. When Toby asks about the introduction, she tells him Nneka has traveled temporarily and her family wants a little time. Neither man realizes she is telling a different story elsewhere. Then Margaret brings Dayo into it properly. She enters his room one morning and finds him preparing for work. Saturday afternoon, Emerald Restaurant. Dayo looks confused. For what? Margaret puts a small card on his table. Nneka's name and number are written on it. Dayo stares at her. Mommy. Margaret sits calmly. Meet her. Dayo laughs in disbelief. This is Toby's woman. Margaret immediately corrects him. She is nobody's woman. Your brother saw her at an event. That's all. Dayo shakes his head. Daddy is arranging an introduction for them. Margaret leans closer. Your father is arranging what Toby requested. That does not mean she would choose him. Meet her. If there is nothing between you, walk away. Dayo hesitates. Margaret sees the curiosity already working. Unless you are afraid she will prefer your brother. Dayo's face changes. Margaret has known her younger son long enough to know exactly where to press. I'm not afraid of Toby. Margaret smiles. Then meet her. Across town, Nneka is having almost the opposite conversation with her parents. Her mother is excited, pulling dresses from the wardrobe while Nneka sits on the bed protesting that this is merely dinner. Exactly, Mrs. Obi says. And people wear clothes to dinner. Nneka groans. Her father enters and immediately rescues one dress from his wife's hands. Leave the girl alone. She is meeting a man, not attending her coronation. Nneka points triumphantly at him. Her mother ignores both of them. Nneka eventually becomes serious. Daddy, I don't want to be pushed into anything because these people have money. Mr. Obi sits beside her. Then don't be. Meet him. Talk to him. If you don't like him, come home. Their money will not marry you. That reassurance is exactly what Nneka needs. Saturday afternoon, Dayo arrives at Emerald Restaurant before Nneka. For the first time since agreeing to this, he appears slightly uncomfortable. Margaret has sent him Nneka's basic information: where she works, what she studied, details about her family, but Dayo refuses to read most of it. If he is going to do this, he wants to convince himself he is not copying his brother's interest. Then Nneka walks in wearing a simple blue dress. Dayo stands instinctively. For a moment, the competition disappears from his face. He is genuinely struck by her. Nneka approaches cautiously. Dayo, he smiles. Nneka, I was beginning to worry I had been given the wrong photograph. She glances at the clock. I'm 4 minutes late. Dayo pulls out her chair. I know. I counted all 4. She laughs, and something begins that neither of them understands has already been manipulated. The dinner lasts almost 3 hours. Dayo is funny without trying too hard, curious about Nneka's work, and surprisingly honest about the pressure of being born into a wealthy family. Nneka tells him she expected arrogance. Dayo places a hand over his chest. You haven't known me long enough. Give me time. She laughs again. By the end of the evening, Nneka is surprised by how comfortable she feels. Dayo walks her to her car, but does not try to touch her. Can I call you tomorrow? Nneka smiles. You can. Dayo watches her drive away. For the first time, his expression becomes complicated. Whatever began as competition has just become real attraction. Toby discovers the switch 2 days later. He enters his mother's sitting room and finds Dayo smiling at his phone. Toby reaches for a bottle of water from the refrigerator and casually asks, "Who has you smiling like that?" Dayo locks his phone. Nobody. Toby laughs. Then nobody must be very interesting. Margaret enters before the conversation continues. Dayo's phone lights up on the sofa. Nneka. Toby freezes. Dayo sees where he is looking. The room changes instantly. Toby slowly puts down the bottle. Why is Nneka calling you? Margaret answers before Dayo can. They met. Toby looks at his mother. What? Margaret folds her arms. Dayo met her on Saturday. Toby turns toward his brother. You knew? Dayo rises. Toby, you knew I asked Daddy to approach her family. Dayo's defensiveness appears immediately. You saw her once. Stop talking like she was your fiancé. I asked you a question, and I'm answering you. Yes, I knew. Toby looks toward Margaret. You arranged this. Margaret refuses to look ashamed. I arranged an introduction. Nneka liked him. What exactly is the crime? Toby laughs once, but there is no humor in it. You told me her family needed time. They did. You told me she traveled. Margaret says nothing. Toby finally understands. You lied to me. Margaret approaches him. Toby, you are making this unnecessarily dramatic. You had never even spoken to this girl properly. That was the point of the introduction. Dayo steps between them. Don't shout at mommy because of a woman who doesn't even know you. Toby looks at his brother for a long time. Then quietly, you could have any woman you wanted. Dayo's jaw tightens. Apparently so could you. That sentence confirms everything. Toby nods slowly, picks up his car keys and leaves. Chief Emeka returns from Abuja that evening and learns what happened. His anger shakes the house. You did what? Margaret insists Nneka and Dayo have already connected and that interfering now would be unfair to the young woman. Chief Emeka turns on Dayo. Your brother came to me like a man and told me he wanted to meet somebody. You went behind him because your mother waved a photograph in front of you? Dayo refuses to be humiliated. Nobody stole anybody. Nneka likes me. Chief Emeka answers, that is not the point. Dayo fires back, it is exactly the point. If she meets Toby tomorrow and chooses him, fine. But don't stand there acting like he reserved her because he saw her first. Toby enters during the argument. Everyone becomes quiet. Chief Emeka turns to him. I will call her father tonight and explain everything. Toby immediately says no. Chief Emeka is surprised. Toby continues, what exactly will you explain? That our family turned his daughter into something two brothers are competing over. She has met Dayo. She likes him. Leave her out of this. Margaret watches Toby carefully. Chief Emeka asks, and you're comfortable with that? Toby looks at Dayo. No. But my comfort stopped mattering the moment she met him without knowing I existed. Dayo says nothing. Toby walks upstairs. The courtship continues. Weeks become months, and Dayo's original competitive motivation gradually becomes genuine affection. He drives from Lagos to Enugu after work just to spend a few hours with Nneka. He learns that she hates overly expensive gifts and begins bringing smaller things, instead books, food from places she mentions casually, a ridiculous desk plant she names Fred. Nneka falls in love with the version of Dayo standing in front of her. She knows nothing about the war that preceded their first dinner. 2 months later, Dayo brings Nneka to the Eze mansion for Sunday lunch. This is the first time she meets Toby properly. Toby walks into the sitting room carrying a laptop bag and stops when he sees her. Nneka smiles politely. Dayo stands. Perfect timing. Nneka, this is my older brother Toby. Toby's eyes move from Dayo to Nneka. Nneka extends her hand. Finally, I've heard almost nothing about you. The irony lands painfully. Toby takes her hand briefly. That's probably for the best. Nneka laughs because she thinks he is joking. Dayo does not. Margaret appears from the hallway and immediately wraps an arm around Nneka. Come, my daughter, ignore Toby. He believes smiling more than twice a day will damage his reputation. Everyone laughs. Toby forces a smile. During lunch, Nneka notices something peculiar. Chief Emeka is warm toward her, but every now and then he looks from her to Toby and becomes quiet. Toby barely participates in the conversation. When Nneka mentions that she works in university administration but wants eventually to move into education consulting, Toby looks up with genuine interest and asks several thoughtful questions. Dayo interrupts with a joke. Please don't encourage her. Soon she'll abandon me and become one of those women flying around the world with laptops. Nneka nudges him playfully. Toby doesn't laugh. Why shouldn't she? Dayo looks at him. It was a joke. Toby returns to his food. Then make it funny next time. Margaret immediately changes the subject. Later, while Nneka is helping Margaret carry dishes toward the kitchen, she hears Dayo and Toby arguing quietly outside. You're doing it deliberately, Dayo says. Toby replies, doing what? Trying to impress her. Toby laughs softly. I asked her about her work. Don't. There is a pause. Then Toby says something Nneka cannot fully hear. Dayo responds sharply. She is with me now. Nneka enters the corridor. Both brothers immediately stop talking. She looks between them. Everything okay? Toby picks up his keys. Perfect. He leaves. Nneka turns toward Dayo. What was that about? Dayo smiles and kisses her forehead. Brothers. That one word is enough to make her dismiss it. 6 months later, Dayo proposes. He takes Nneka back to Emerald Restaurant, requests the same table from their first date, and waits until dessert before placing the ring box between them. Nneka covers her mouth. Dayo looks more nervous than she has ever seen him. Nneka, meeting you started in a way I didn't expect. She has no idea how true that sentence is. But somewhere between that first dinner and all the times you've insulted my driving since then, you became the person I want to come home to. Marry me. Nneka cries. Yes. Dayo exhales and slides the ring onto her finger. Across town, Margaret receives his call and smiles. Toby receives no call. He finds out the following morning when Dayo walks into the family breakfast with Nneka's engagement photograph open on his phone. Toby looks at it, then at his brother. Congratulations. Dayo studies his face. That's all. What else do you want? I don't know. You tell me. Toby stands. Margaret watches anxiously. Toby looks directly at Dayo. You won. Isn't that what you wanted? Dayo's smile disappears. Toby leaves the room. Chief Emeka closes his eyes. Margaret says nothing. Months later, Nneka walks down the aisle toward Dayo while hundreds of guests watch. Toby stands beside his brother as one of the groomsmen because refusing would create questions nobody wants answered. Nneka reaches the altar and smiles at Dayo. For one brief second, she glances toward Toby. He smiles back. But behind that smile is a truth she will not discover until after the marriage has already begun to destroy her. The wedding ends. The photographs are taken. The families celebrate. Margaret watches her younger son dance with his new wife and appears satisfied. Chief Emeka stands beside her. You got what you wanted. Margaret turns. What is that supposed to mean? You know exactly what it means. She lowers her voice. They are happy. Chief Emeka watches Dayo and Nneka dancing. For now. Margaret stiffens. Chief Emeka walks away. Across the reception hall, Toby quietly leaves through a side door without saying goodbye. And Nneka, laughing in her husband's arms, never notices. 4 months later, that same husband will strike her across the face. 3 weeks after that, she will find the photograph. But by then, discovering that Toby wanted her first will be only the beginning. Because the Eze family has hidden something for more than 30 years, something about the two brothers, their mother, and the man everyone believes is Chief Emeka's rightful son. And when that truth finally comes out, Nneka will realize Margaret did not simply steal a woman from one brother and hand her to another. She had been rearranging the lives of both sons since the day one of them was born. But Nneka's story is far from over. The photograph is only the first secret waiting for her inside the Eze family. In part 2, Nneka will discover why Margaret deliberately kept her away from Toby, what really happened between the two brothers, and the 30-year-old secret that could tear the entire Eze family apart. And when the truth finally comes out, Nneka will have to decide whether there is anything left in her marriage worth saving. Subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss part 2, because what Nneka discovers next changes everything.